All right, folks, welcome to another XenTegra webinar Wednesdays. I got a great cast with me today, and we're going to be talking about Citrix Synergy 2019 and doing a little recap. So it's going to be a fun day. We got a lot of content to cover, and we are going to be jumping through a lot of great topics. So my name is Pete Downing. I am the CMTO of XenTegra, the Chief Marketing and Technology Officer of XenTegra. Yes, when it comes to technology, I love technology, but also you have to be good at marketing the technology. So hence the hybrid role. On the call, I also have Jonathan Freeman. So if you want to give a quick second and introduce yourself, Jonathan.
Sure, thanks for having me on, Pete. So, yeah, I'm a partner solutions engineer with Citrix, and I've been with Citrix for just over 5 years now, but I spent an additional 5 years prior to that working in technology business and specifically in end-user computing. So I'm glad to be here working with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And then finally, we have Andy Whiteside, our founder and CEO, on with us today, and he's going to be sharing some thoughts throughout the day and probably throwing in some good questions. So, Andy, can you just give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, no, thanks, Pete. Yeah, I'm going to be monitoring the chat window and the questions window. And I'm also probably going to hit you with some questions of my own along the way, but I appreciate you guys letting me chime in here. I don't know if this is the right time, but I think it is. I do want to make sure that that I cover this topic for the group, and that is that I've been attending Synergy and talking to pundits after the fact for, I don't know, 10 years now, both as a Citrix employee and as the XenTegra founder. And I struggle with the challenge that Citrix has as it relates to Synergy. They have a big need to move the ball forward and move the needle around new technologies, new concepts, new ideas, which I think you're going to cover a lot in the presentation today, while at the same time they have to find a way not to leave out the legacy Citrix customer who's just virtualizing apps and desktops, or maybe more importantly, the new Citrix customer who, yeah, they love the idea of getting to the workspace, and maybe the intelligent workspace is down the road for them. But for now, they just got to figure out how to successfully virtualize apps and desktops. And I think you're going to sprinkle in some of that old school conversation around, the protocol, what makes Citrix great around the protocol for virtual apps and virtual desktops, while also trying to cover the latest greatest concepts, which is where Citrix is trying to drive the business and add value for those clients that are very strategically using the technology.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing a nice little kind of cap off today with the virtual apps and desktops overview and kind of highlight some of the key things, and actually have an interesting poll for the audience to answer as well to go along with it. So yeah, looking forward to it. So thanks, Andy. And I'll probably come to you at the end to give your final thoughts as well. And as always, feel free to throw in questions. So. All right, so let's dive in. We have a pretty packed agenda today. I'm going to do some quick polls. If you've joined my webinars in the past, you know that I love the polls because it helps me understand my audience a little bit. But also throughout the day today, I'm going to be doing polls throughout. So with each topic, I'll be doing a quick poll. So obviously, I want to keep you guys engaged and understand where your heads are at with some of these new functionalities that Citrix launched at Synergy 2019. And then finally, I'll end cap with a quick overview on XenTegra. And as always, we encourage questions. So if you have a question, please put it into the chat window. You can go to your chat box and ask a question to any of the staff that's here. And we are paying attention to the box. So just ask away and we'll answer it as best as possible. And just some quick housekeeping. We are on GoToMeeting, or GoToWebinar, I should say. So if everybody is on mute, if you want to be bold at the end and ask a live question, you can. I can unmute you and you can ask your question live. Now, bear in mind the session is being recorded, so just keep that in mind. If you do want to go live, we can make you live. All right, so a couple quick polls before we jump in, and like I said, I have a lot of polls throughout the thing, but I want to keep this very interactive. So. First question, just to kind of understand the audience, is did you attend Citrix Synergy, just to get an idea of Synergy attendees? And if you can take a minute to answer the question. Again, other people can't see your responses. We can't see your responses. It is anonymous, so don't worry. And we'll give a couple minutes, a couple seconds to let everybody get in. Again, the more data I get, the more statistically relevant it is.
And Pete, I would be remiss if I didn't jump in here and say that if you attended and you paid for it out of pocket and you didn't get some assistance from a partner, maybe you should consider working with XenTegra. As the guy who writes the $100,000+ check every year to go to Synergy, I want more people to be going with us.
Exactly. All right, so 33% of you only attended Synergy, so that's a low number of attendees, and 66 said no, but you want to attend. And to Andy's point, one of the things we do is we try to help our customers get to Synergy. If you renew your Citrix stack through us, we'll pay for your pass to get there, and in some cases, sometimes more. And Andy, I don't know if you have any other input.
No, I would just add, take advantage of that. We want you to be leveraging us or maybe your existing partner. The money, Citrix is a great company to work with. They provide these funds they have for years and years and years. It's just a matter of whether that's trickling down to you, and it should be. And so if you're not getting it, let us know. We'll find ways to help you get that money and help offset the cost of attending both the conference pass as well as the hotel and potentially even the flight.
Yeah, and we had a great dinner as well. So we do a dinner on the first night, and the dinner was fun. We do a exclusive T-shirt that we give out, and then this year we also gave out a pretty cool hat. So I'll put a picture up on social media after today's webinar if you guys want to see those. So let's dive in. So as I said, throughout the day today, I'm going to be covering different polls. So as we go through the content, I'm going to ask a poll that's relevant to the content. Okay, and so that keeps you guys engaged, but also make sure that no one's falling asleep. And if we're getting boring, just let us know. But again, ask questions and we encourage it. So first, I just want to do a quick shout out to my friends over at Igel. They were one of my key sponsors for our dinner. They had their booth there as well. They had a lot of great demos. Hopefully those who did attend got a chance to go over there and see some of the stuff they're doing with their Igel OS, which they're now calling the Edge OS. And one of the things you can do is jot down this URL, ichallengeeverything.com, and jot down the code XenPorsche. You can fill in the little survey they have, and you can be entered in to win a Porsche Taycan, which is the electric software-defined car on the planet. So at the end of the day, just to give you an idea, Igel does these bold marketing campaigns every year. They gave away 2 Teslas, and then last year they gave over $100,000 away to different customers. So this is not a gimmick, and they actually do give you a Porsche and or the cash value, so you can donate it to a nonprofit, because in some cases you can't accept the Porsche. So again, how do you enter? Go to that URL, complete the short survey, and then you'll be asked to just do a quick demo of Igel, which I highly recommend. And as XenTegra and a partner, we love Igel. And if you do fill out the survey, if you forward me your survey entry, pete@XenTegra.com, I'll send you some cool swag, UD Pocket being one of them. So that would get you started with a little demo around Igel and the UD Pocket, which is their micro USB thin device. And I don't want
to beat that swag includes one of the Citrix T-shirts, right?
Oh yeah, it includes one of our soft, nice Citrix T-shirts as well. So what you see in the picture here, I'll send you some of this swag. So
I have to tell you, that was one of my favorite things of the conference, walking around and just seeing the XenTegra Citrix T-shirts everywhere. And then there was a collage of pictures last night, and but in a lot of pictures there were XenTegra T-shirts. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. So one of the things I'd like to shout out to is the Igel UD2. They did make this announcement at Synergy last week. This is their, cost-effective solution to thin devices. Now, bear in mind, Igel is not a thin client company. They're an Igel. They're a software company. So their Igel OS, their Edge OS is what you should be focused on. However, they do sell thin devices, and this is one of the devices they sell. I'm calling it the Nook Killer. And again, it's a great device if you're looking for something small, compact, low cost, and can meet the needs of some of the demands, especially in healthcare, some finance use cases, etc. So again, if you want a deeper dive on Igel, let us know.
Hey Pete, as a guy who's always wanted to be a Linux endpoint guy, I discovered about a year ago that working with Igel has finally got me to the point where I get to be the Linux desktop guy in a manageable, learnable fashion. It's checked the box for me personally.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool, and the things you can do with it is you can customize the endpoint to a point where the user wouldn't even know it's Linux. So All right, so let's talk about Synergy and Citrix and do a recap. And I don't know why I put cloud there, but I did. So the first section we're going to talk about is the Citrix Workspace with intelligence. And I've invited Jonathan to kind of take us through a little demo. But before we do, I just want to kind of preface it with a couple things and talk about some of the stuff. And if you went to the keynote, this was one of the key features that they showed off at the day one keynote. And really, they talked about the goal of the workspace, and the workspace overall goal is to keep the employee efficient and keep you in one place to do your job. And if you really look at the direction of where Citrix is going, it's about simplifying the day-to-day experience for the end user. And if you haven't experienced Citrix Workspace in general, I highly recommend at least demoing it, trying it out on a few clients. You can use it today with some basic on-prem setup, and if you are 100% cloud, you gain the full advantage. Now, one of the great things about the new intelligent workspace is the ability to do micro apps and not have to leave your tasks. So, for example, let's say you're a doctor and you're in Epic and you're doing your job, and I submit an expense report. You don't have to leave Workspace to approve that expense report. It just pops up. You click approve, and you continue working in Epic. So the goal here is simple. It's to keep the user efficient through the notion of what's called micro apps. You can build your own apps, and they do have an app builder. And obviously, I'm going to probably do a webinar in the future that's going to go deeper into this concept. But really, the goal is twofold: to keep the user efficient and keep the user productive. And Citrix touted this big claim of they're going to give employees 1 day back a week. Now, does that mean I get an extra vacation day? I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's pretty compelling to understand that, hey, if you keep your users productive and with less distraction, I don't know about you, but when I get distracted, I tend to forget about the task I was working on, and I chase down another task. So, everybody's got that flaw, and Citrix's goal is to keep the employees efficient. So with that, we're gonna also, one of the things they did introduce, and I think this is compelling as well, is if you are going to maintain and make the Citrix Workspace your portal to the user, you might as well support local apps. Local application support is going to come, and so that's good news as well. So now you can truly make Workspace a end-to-end experience for the user, whether they're using local apps, browser apps, published apps, and I'll talk about some of the other cool features that they're doing with Workspace as we get deeper in today's webinar. But with that, I want to toss over to Jonathan, and I'm going to make you presenter, Jonathan. And he's going to take us through really quickly an overview of the Citrix Workspace with intelligence. The preface here is it is a prototype, so it is limited, so bear in mind with that. But he'll take us through the concepts and highlight some of the things you can look forward to in the coming quarter or two with Workspace. So with that, Jonathan, you got the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. So, as you mentioned, we want to ultimately make users more efficient with how they're working, and we've done a great job of putting all those applications into a single pane of glass. So that way, those users can just go to the Citrix Workspace and access, their published applications, published desktops, all of their files, and also get to their SaaS applications without having to sign into them in a separate web browser as well. And now we have those security controls that are wrapped around that too. But as you can see, we're changing the way that this is all going to look. And one of the reasons we've done this is you mentioned that getting interrupted. We did a study that showed that employees are interrupted approximately 1,100 times a day from other application notifications and just general distractions, which kind of equates to that 20% of time wasted just to find the relevant applications and content to get work done. So that's how we came up with that. You can save a whole day out of your week that way. But how we're going to combat that is essentially with the workspace, your landing page is no longer going to be applications and desktops, but it's going to be this intelligent feed. And the feed is filled with cards, and these cards are really what we have tied back to those micro apps. The micro apps tied back to the services. In this case, we've got mostly SaaS applications that are pre-built to help initiate workflows into those without ever having to actually open up that SaaS application or that other service that you normally get to. So let's go through a couple of examples here. One of the ones I like to show here is, we all have to do education of some sort within our jobs. And in this instance, I got assigned a course from a manager and I can just click on the card and it opens up the description. And instead of having to go to a separate site and get registered for that course, it already knows who I am. So I can just click in here and register right from here, telling me I've saved 4 minutes doing so. So the same thing with expense reports. Now, everybody has to do them. Nobody likes to approve them or get them entered in. So we might as well make that easier. And here we actually have it linked back to 2 services. So if I'm a manager and I need to approve an expense report to SAP, I know what this is already about. I can just click approve and that expense report is approved. No need to actually go log into SAP or launch it or do anything. It's just the micro app initiates the workflow and it's completed. Now, if I'm curious about this one, so this is Concur expense report, I can click on the card and Stella submitted this and I'm not sure what it's for, but you can actually see all of the information in here. So, oh, okay, Office Depot supplies. I have a scan of the receipt right here. That's right, we're out of paper. So that was one of the things that we had to go get. I can go ahead and approve that expense report right from here as well. So really nice and easy to do. And of course, in this feed, we have it linked to our services as well. So Citrix files, you're going to be able to open up Citrix files documents directly from here and take a look at the information, provide feedback if that's been requested, since that's actually what showed up in my feed. Now I want to make a note too that these cards and the information that shows up here can be driven by machine learning and AI. So that's that suggested course that we have at the top. That may not be one that's going to be assigned by a manager, but things that it thinks that we should see in here, this is what's going to show up. Another example of that is the summer workout challenge. This is not something that's going to be required for anyone, but the broadcast micro app is letting me know that this is available. So this might, in another case, if I didn't have the workspace, gotten lost in an email, could have possibly gone to a junk folder. I just not have seen it, didn't have time to open up the website, fill out all my information and get registered. But since I actually have it just right here in my feed, I can click on it, check out all the details, and then just click sign up, and I'm registered for the summer workout challenge. Now I got to remember that I've signed up for it and actually do the work, but signing up is going to be the easy part. Now, one of the important, powerful things I think that we can really bring into this feed is we can tie directly back into services like Power BI and Salesforce. And so, if you have a sales organization, what drives them is being able to see where they're at to quarter to date, or how they're chasing their quotas down. Well, we can pull Tableau reports in daily if we need to. So instead of having to open up Salesforce, run a Tableau report, which doesn't always work, depending on if you're in network, out of network, we can just populate that information right in the workspace for you right here. So now some of the other things we've got listed here, besides just the cards in the middle, we have recommended actions that you can take over here on this side as well. So if you need to do something such as request PTO, I've got a reminder here that we've got some holidays coming up. I know I've got some family that are coming in for the 4th of July. So if I need to go ahead and just take that week off, instead of having to open up Workday and find where I need to take that, I can just open up this card. It tells me how many days I have. I've got 12 days off that I can take, 2 days volume time. I can put a note in here if I need to and click request. And then my manager is going to get that request actually probably down in their workspace feed. So I've actually got one from one of my employees here. Bill is requesting PTO from 1/1 to 1/15, a little past that, but it's okay. Now I can put a manager comment in here if I need to, and then I can go ahead and approve time off. So it's just as simple as that. Now, as you can see, hopefully how much time this will save workers if you get to utilize the micro apps in this feed-based platform that we have within the Workspace app. But if you still need to use your applications, they're still going to be all where you need them on the left-hand pane, just like they are in the one that Workspace app you see today, as well as desktops. And of course, all the files as well, along with the connectors such as OneDrive for Business, if you need them, network shares, and of course, there's Citrix files, content collaboration information as well.
So Jonathan, a good question came in. And it kind of plays into the notion of the micro apps concept. And I don't get too deep into this today, but I will probably in a future webinar. But the ability to support other expense reporting apps. So the example was given, I think he meant Centrify. Can you plug in other, expense apps, other than, I think, would you have SAP Concur? So can you plug in other apps as well with the micro apps concept? And I think the answer is yes, because there's the micro app builder as well, right?
Yeah, correct. As long as we can hook into the API and use a micro app builder to build a connection into that, it should be able to work. Now, things like SAP Concur, we're going to have. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andy.
Well, so what you were going to say, right? You have the built-in, you have them built in, plus you have the micro app builder, plus partners like XenTegra are working with application developers to learn APIs of additional SaaS applications, so that we can say yes to all of those. So there's really no limit to what you can do here. You might either have the built-in ones, you might have the app builder, or you may have to work with a company like XenTegra to be able to integrate with your particular app service that you want to integrate this with.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
Cool, good question. Yeah, so one of the things, Phil, I am going to do a future webinar on just Workspace with intelligence, so watch for that. And I'm actually going to ask a poll at the end of which you'd like to see first. So definitely take part in that poll so you guys can weigh in on what webinar you'd like to see on the Citrix topic next. So, all right. So Jonathan, thank you for taking time today. And again, as always, I always love having you on because you give great demos. All right, so folks, to make sure.
Can I comment on that? Can I comment on that one just real quick?
Yep.
That was what I was talking about earlier when I said Citrix needs to, Citrix has to, for the sake of driving business forward, address things like the future of work, which is kind of the marketing term around this. At the same time, we're going to go into some other things later around addressing what some of the less strategic or less mature, and I mean mature in terms of the stage of their Citrix implementations need. So I want to make sure people know that what Citrix, that's the edge, right? That's where we're moving forward to, while at the same time, we're going to cover some of the more basic things Citrix is and has been doing forever. But that was the kind of looking forward concepts that I had a lot of feedback from Synergy where people said, hey, this kind of left me out. Well, that's what we're going to cover today. We're going to show what they're doing going forward, as well as what they're doing with the legacy products to make sure those continue to evolve as well.
Yep, and yeah, so like I said, I'm going to cover some of the legacy stuff towards the end, but I want to make sure we get all the juicy stuff up front. And I put I put a poll up. Do you see the value in Citrix Workspace with intelligence? If you can take just a quick second to answer that, not a minute, but and that's going to give us some great feedback on what you guys think of Citrix Intelligence, Citrix Workspace with intelligence. So I'm going to give about a couple more seconds, and going once, twice, and 3 times. So a good chunk of you definitely see value in it, and the good news is I am going to do a webinar that's wholly focused just on Workspace intelligence. So and there was a question that came in around really quickly.
Hey, Pete Downing, I'm gonna ask you to do me a quick favor.
Yes, sir.
Can you go back to that slide, that poll?
Oh yeah, sure. Hold on. Share it. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I want to keep that for my record. So I've got to talk to some executives in the coming week, coming days, and I want to show them that slide.
Cool. So Phil asked a great question, and Phil, let me kind of answer this as we go through the day today. But the simple answer is yes, to some degree. But I'm going to fill in some of the gaps as we go through the day because there is some on-premise options that are going to happen. And then Chad, I will do some back-end overview when I talk about Google Cloud and a couple other things. So, but if you want to get a deeper dive into the Citrix Cloud Workspace, definitely go to XenTegra.com/events. We do a free cloud hands-on workshop with labs if you'd like to jump in on that. And that's a whole day, and you get all the back-end insight you need. So definitely.
But Pete, the short answer on the infrastructure one is all this is enabled out of a Citrix cloud or a Citrix service or a cloud service, however you want to call it. And so, most of the infrastructure side of that is no, it's all done through software that's hosted and maintained by Citrix. But again, you have a class on it. You can go into more detail whenever you want.
Cool. All right, and another shout out to our friends over at Printer Logic. They were one of our core sponsors back there. If you didn't get a chance to go visit them, or you don't know who they are, definitely head over to their website. Their solution is very easy to get up and running. And they are probably one of the, I would argue they are one of the leaders in the printing space, because they didn't just focus on end user computing, they also focused on printing as a whole. So holistically, they came from that space, so they get printing end to end. So again, head over to Printer Logic to see more. And if you want to dive in deeper with a demo, you can definitely reach out to XenTegra. All right, so let's talk about Citrix Managed Desktops. And the good news is my demo just got enabled, so I'm kind of excited. We're going to dive into this announcement. And really the goal here is simple, that Citrix finally launched a desktop as a service offering in their cloud. And when I say launched, I mean they announced it. It's going to come out with probably early Q3 is what I'm told. They're going to start piloting it with key customers in the next quarter. So definitely, if you think you're a valid candidate for piloting, you can work with us. We can help you get access to the pilot. But again, the goal is simple. I want to be able to spin up a managed desktop and not have to worry about the management, the VDAs, Azure cost, etc. It's going to be on a single bill that comes from either XenTegra via Citrix or Citrix Direct, and you don't have to worry about Azure subscriptions, etc. Now, the good news is, and I had a good talk with the product management team earlier this week, is they are going to have a BYO model of BYO your own licensing to lower the cost, as well as BYO your own Azure. So if you are an Azure customer, they can layer the Citrix Cloud Platform on top of your Azure instance and still provide the service. It's not going to be available in the first iteration, but that said, the good news is that Citrix will offer a desktop as a service offering in their cloud. Now, just to kind of level set here, on the far left, you have your, what they call the DIY model, which is probably where you guys are all sitting today, where you have your whole, your whole end-to-end traditional Citrix install on-prem. Now, another chunk you might be leveraging the cloud platform. And again, as Andy said, the great thing about that is you're not maintaining any of this stuff right here on-prem anymore. You're relying on Citrix to maintain that, and you're just worried about servicing up your VDAs. Now, the great thing about the virtual delivery agent is you control the data, you control where it sits. So if you want to put it in Azure, Google Cloud, or a combination of all three, you can. So that's the benefit of leveraging the cloud platform. And again, if you're interested, we do a one-day workshop on Citrix Cloud. Now, over here on the far right, they launched at Synergy the notion of desktop as a service, aka Citrix Managed Desktops, with the gateway service built in. Now, what's great about this is they give a bunch of different options. You can do with AD, without Active Directory, with Azure Active Directory. So they have a lot of different flexibility around how you can manage and how you can deploy these. Now, out of the gate, it's going to be managed, Citrix Managed to start, and then they're going to expand the offering over the next, I'd say 6 months to 9 months to include things like BYO licensing, BYO your own Azure, if you are an Azure customer. Now, again, the great thing about this is holistically managed by Citrix. So if you spin up this service, you don't have to worry about anything. You just spin it up, you provide the service, you provide the credentials, maybe your SSO provider, etc., and that's it. They manage the VDA. They have a catalog of VDAs. You can bring your own image if you need to, so you can pull that in. And essentially what they've done is taken Windows virtual desktops, plugged it into Citrix Cloud, put the VDA on top of that, and the value of that is now you're not just getting a vanilla desktop with Office Pro Plus, you're getting a desktop with the capabilities of the core Citrix functionality built in, the HDX protocol, the ability to plug into apps and desktops, the ability to plug in the SaaS apps, etc. So there's huge value here, and I'm excited because
Pete, when you're ready, we should probably address a couple things, one of which came in at a question a minute ago.
Okay.
So that previous conversation around Workspace, and maybe you hit this and I just missed it, but Workspace is a service. However, that does not mean you have to have Citrix Cloud for your XenApp and desktop. You can tie that back through the connectors you can tie that back into your on-prem XenApp, XenDesktop, as well as your share file, as well as your or Citrix files, as well as SaaS apps and micro apps correct, right? You can buy Workspace as a service without having to be all in on cloud everything. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I can show that. I kind of highlight that at the very end when I kind of highlight kind of some of the goodness that's happening on-prem. But I also highlight the ability to manage your on-prem environment with the Citrix Cloud platform. Now, the goal of Citrix Cloud is not to necessarily replace your on-prem. The goal is to become that single pane of glass to manage on-prem, hybrid, et cetera, across that. And again, we offer not only our Citrix workshop on cloud, but we also offer the Microsoft Azure workshop, which we're going to be coming to about 23 cities across the US to talk about Citrix and Azure and how those two are working together. And in that, I also talk about managing the hybrid, what I call the hybrid DR scenario. So you might want to stay on-prem for your core instance, but when you go to Azure, you may want to have it managed by the Citrix platform. And again, the Citrix Cloud is a platform. And for the first time, they are offering as a service, so desktop as a service. So you do have the option now to go and say, hey, I want to run desktops, but have them be Citrix managed. So in this case, yes, with Citrix managed desktops, it's an all-in approach. And then down the road, it would probably be about a little hybrid. And with this, you could also do the hybrid approach if you're going to use XenApp as well, or virtual apps, I should say.
So this is a little misleading. So go back to your previous comment real quick. Workspace is not only for those who are all in on cloud, including desktop as a service, and then this desktop as a service from Citrix means that they provide the cloud infrastructure control plane, and they provide the desktop infrastructure. Yep. But that doesn't mean you as a customer still can't manage your own desktops, right? Or your partner, or both. You still have to get in and manage the apps and manage the workloads. You just don't have to provide the workload, right?
No, and the value of the desktop service, the Citrix Managed Desktop Service, is if you don't want to be in the business of providing desktops and managing desktop images, you don't have to be. However, that said, you can go back and do the traditional management. I can show that after I kind of run through this and manage the Citrix, from the Citrix Cloud platform, your normal everyday Windows 10, 2016, 2019, as you do today. The only difference is you can use the platform as your central pane, your single pane of glass. But yes, the managed desktop is truly an end-to-end all-in approach, and it's the first time Citrix is doing it. Now, what's cool about this, and I don't know if anybody's played with the Azure WVD, but I personally find the Azure WVD is kind of clunky. The provisioning engine is not that great. So essentially what Citrix has done is taken kind of two approaches. They said, hey, you can go in and do a kind of a more in-depth provisioning experience, or you can do a quick desktop, and you can go in and actually choose a desktop and say what region you want it in, name it, and then go create desktop. So they've simplified the experience for the user. And the good thing about this is end-to-end management. So once you get these desktops deployed, you go to yourcompany.cloud.com, and you can then access these desktops. Now, if I go here and click on Get Started, this is going to take me to a more in-depth approach to.
Pete, just real quick though, if they have to update their version of Adobe Reader, right? Citrix isn't going to do that for them. They still would do the management within the image themselves, correct?
No, so the difference between this and Azure WVD is you're gonna be able to plug into an existing XenApp / virtual apps environment. So yes, if you're gonna provide, let's say, Adobe or Epic or whatnot, you would still plug into your existing infrastructure. Now, the great thing about this is because it's on Azure, they can use the backend Azure Virtual WAN to plug into your cloud instance and be able to host up apps. Now you can also bring your own apps, so you can bring your own image, and you can also connect to your own network. So if you already have an Azure instance, you can do what's called VNet pairing and connect to, let's say, a XenApp server sitting in another resource location in Azure. And obviously, I don't have a lot of time to get into Azure, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. And the other thing that I like about this is actually a sneak peek into the future of the UI. So for those who have played with cloud, and I'll show it at the end, the UI today is it's basically a cloud purpose-built studio for the administrator. This is the start of making that UI truly cloud native. So if you go in, you can see like your different master images here. You can go in and pick your authentication. So you can see that out of the box, they have Windows 10 with multi-session, Windows 10 with just basic Windows 10 with the VDA installed, and then Windows 2016. And because the VDA is installed, all you have to do is configure it, plug it into your Azure AD or your AD, and then you can configure the VDA to point at your existing XenApp server. So hopefully that answers the question, Andy.
Hey, Pete, I do want to add one thing. So for me, I'm looking at this more as Citrix Managed Desktop as a infrastructure as a service, but we'll get more into that at some point, how much Citrix actually does, because as you point out here, you can bring your own apps kind of thing, and you probably, most people will, right? I mean, Citrix is going to manage your apps for you.
Yeah, so Citrix is maintaining these 3 images right here. So they maintain these 3 images, and then they maintain the VDA. So when the next version of Citrix comes out, you should hypothetically see, and again, I say hypothetically because it's still new, the new version here. All right, so it won't be 1903. It might be, let's say, 1906. Let's say. So, and you can also import an image. So you can actually go in and import an image. And you can do a VHD. So if you have a custom image you want to import, you can import it in. So yeah, then once you do that, you kind of become in the business of making sure your image is maintained. But the core images right here are provided by Citrix. Now, if you go into WVD, the difference here is they have Win 10, Win 10 Pro, and Win 2016 Server without the VDA. So that's the big difference. And then the other difference is, I think down the road, you'll start seeing them plug into other capabilities of Azure, et cetera. And then, like I said, if you can BYO your own Azure, you'll be able to augment the catalog provisioning on top of that.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that comment was you're talking about these workshops that you're going to do, these boot camps we're doing, workshops. You're also going to do some of those online. So if you're not in one of the 25 cities that we're going to host these, or you're out of town or whatever, Pete's also going to be doing some of these online for the masses as well.
Yep, and yeah, I'm excited about these because they're fun, and yeah, we go through a lot of the nuts and bolts of not only Citrix but Azure as well. So now, one of the quick things before I jump out of this demo is I just wanted to show the wizard. You can do a custom or quick, and again, quick is just like, hey, pick a machine, get it up and running, the number of machines you're going to create, and these are going to be static machines. Or if you go custom, you can do multi-session, random, and again, you can go in here and pick your level that you want. And Citrix then will bill you based on this. So the bill doesn't come from Azure; it actually comes from Citrix or XenTegra if you're partnered with us. And you can go in and pick what you want based on the selection you pick, and then say, hey, I want to create 5. Now I won't do that now because it takes about 20 minutes. But again, if you're interested in a deeper dive, I am going to do a deeper webinar just on desktop managed desktops, aka desktop as a service from Citrix. All right, so my next poll. So hopefully you guys are still with me. Let's talk about Citrix Managed Desktops. Do you guys find value in Citrix Managed Desktops? And I'll give you guys a couple seconds to answer this. And I'm curious, and again, I'll share it, and Andy will probably take a screenshot, but we value your opinion, and this is great data. It's actually primary market research, so it's coming right from you guys. And again, I can't see who's answering, so don't be afraid to respond, nor can others. So, all right, we're gonna give a couple more seconds. Going once, going twice, and 3 times. So here's the results. And again, a good chunk of you see value in this. And one of the things I love about this concept is if you are an SMB mid-market company, you can actually get out of the business of even having to provide desktops or servers, et cetera. You can holistically let Citrix host it, and then you just have to manage the apps, and that's it. And then you can go 100% cloud if you want. And again, to Andy's point, you can go hybrid if you want. So there's a lot of different ways to architect this. Obviously, I could spend another hour talking about architecture, but we don't have that time. So we're going to jump into kind of the next segment. All right, so let's talk about security and what was launched at security. And so one of the things that a lot of folks have started playing with in the workspace is the ability to no cut and paste, the ability to restrict printing. And then the big feature that they launched late last year was URL filtering, the ability to whitelist and blacklist URLs. Now, one of the flaws that, and I don't want to say a flaw, one of the feature limitations that it had was you could only do it with a browser that was hosted by the workspace. Well, the good news is Citrix will now be able to do URL filtering with native browsers in the next quarter. So that's another great feature that they're going to launch. And they've expanded their security functionality. So if you're using the workspace, they're going to be able to turn on anti-keystroke logging. So you'll be able to block the ability to track keystrokes. So, you know, let's say that some kind of drive-by install gets on the machine and you're using workspace, you could prevent the ability to you know, do keystroke logging. Now, one of the biggest features that I always got asked for is, hey, I'm hosting an app up in, you know, let's say in Workspace, let's say it's Epic, and yeah, I can watermark it, I can put some security behind it, but one of the things they couldn't do was prevent screen capture. Well, guess what? In the future, and again, keep saying in the future because some of this stuff is going to be coming in the coming quarter, you'll be able to prevent screen captures of Workspace sessions, which is pretty cool if you think about it. So let's say, again, I'm a doctor or I'm in finance and I got my finance app up, you can prevent the ability to do a screen capture. And if they try to screen capture, it's just going to be a black box. That's what's pretty cool about it. So that was probably one of my favorite features too. Now, the other thing that came out was the ability to support different identity providers, so IDPs in the Citrix Cloud. Now, if you've been playing with Citrix Cloud, you know, and if you've been around me a long time, one of my biggest feedback is I wish Citrix would plug into some of the various IDPs that are out there and offer multi-factor authentication. Well, the good news is they're doing that. And not only are they going to do it natively in the cloud, they're also going to allow you to do it on-prem. So if you have an on-prem setup, you'll be able to plug that into the workspace in the cloud, which to me has been one of the biggest hurdles to you guys adopting Citrix Cloud, is the ability to not have two-factor or multi-factor authentication. So again, they're going to be plugging into some of the vendors you see here. And unfortunately, I couldn't show the slides that I co-presented at a session on this. They said I couldn't show them, so I can't show them, unfortunately, but I can say that you're going to see other vendors like RSA and some of the on-prem and prem vendors get plugged into this as well. So that way you can leave your NetScaler on-prem, have that proxy the connection up to the workspace in the cloud, and still provide a secured experience. So that's the really cool feature. And again, I'm excited about this because I feel that this will help on-ramp you guys faster to leveraging the Citrix Cloud platform. And again, it's a platform, right? So again, out of the box, if you want to go and search in the App Store for, you know, Android and or iPhone, if you go and search for Citrix SSO, they actually have an SSO app, and you can download that. You can kind of experience some of the basic SSO functionality that Citrix has built in natively. And I have a feeling you're going to see this get expanded. Again, that's just my Pete editorial, and you'll see this get expanded. So really quickly, because you know we're running short on time, I want to show this really quick because I think there's some value here. So if I go into my Citrix Cloud, and someone was asking about the management, again, I won't dive in too deep to the management, but one of the things you can do is you can go into your Citrix Cloud. So what you see here is with the Citrix Cloud platform. And if I go to my identity and access management, I can go in and turn on and off identity Active Directory plus token, and then I can turn it off in the workspace. Now I can't do it here because this is a production environment, so I can't mess with the production environment, but I can at least show you in a little demo really quickly how this works. So what I'll do is I'm going to bring up my phone here really quick and show you the app, and screen mirror really fast for you, or not. Let's see. We gotta resync our service. Oh, that's why, because it's there. And let's try this again. And you can see here in the login screen that there's a token, and when you turn this on, you get the ability to to screen share. So if I bring up my app, you can see the app here, and this is the Citrix SSO app. So if I go in to here and I put the right username and password in, it's that one, and then I put my token in, was it 974-565. You now have the ability to do two-factor authentication natively and I got to refresh this session. But again, if I logged in, it would natively log in and use two-factor authentication natively within the Citrix Workspace. Now, one of the other things they're plugging into is the one-time password capability of NetScaler as well. So you'll be able to plug into that and leverage that functionality as well. So doing an SMS text down to your phone and turning that on, or plugging into some of the other vendors that are out there today. So that's one of the things that excited me over the last week. All right, so really quickly, another poll for you guys. So let's see, where is the poll? Oh, what MFA tool do you guys use? And again, if you don't use any of these, just put other, but just curiosity. And yeah, I had to bundle AD and Azure AD together just because it only gives me 5 answers. So again, I'm just
Pete, I don't think you have other listed.
Yeah, I do.
I see Microsoft ID, Okta, Ping Identity. I only see 3.
That's weird. All right, I got on my screen. I have it, so maybe it's your resolution.
Must be me. Yeah, it could be. Hey, question came in around. I think people are interested in screen capture as well as key logging. I don't know if you want to go into a ton of detail on that right now, or maybe bring that to another webinar Wednesday later.
Yeah, so I'd love to go in deeper, and unfortunately, the functionality, they can't turn it on for me. So I'm trying to get a demo of that, and what I'll do is I'll cover it in a webinar. But I'll give me a second. I can show you where that turns on. But before I do, let's share the poll. And I know you'll probably take a screen capture of this, Andy, but a lot of others. So that's interesting, and we can dig. I could probably list about 10 to 15 vendors out here, but there is a lot of great vendors out there that do. Like Duo, et cetera, but I just put some of the usual suspects that I see, and maybe I should have put Duo, but again, it only gives me 5 responses. So, but really quickly to answer your question, Andy, and I think it was Todd asked the question. Here, let me bring up my UI really quick, and I'm gonna go over to my LLC environment. Now, one of the things that was asked is, hey, where do I go and enable some of this? So Citrix has this new feature called access control. And if you go into access control and you turn on, access control for any apps, you can go in and manage your apps. So for example, if I go to my library here, I have a few apps in my library. So I have Salesforce here. And if I go edit Salesforce, and I'm trying to get SSO turned on end to end, but if I go to app details, you can plug in your app details. But under enhanced security, that's where you go and you can turn on the different restrictions. And so what's not here is the 2 options. There's 2 more options, like disable screen capturing and turn on key logging. So there would be 2 more options in this screen. Unfortunately, like I said, they weren't able to turn it on for me yet, and they said it's coming soon. So bear with me, and I'll do a deeper webinar just on security, in the future as well. So good question. All right, so let's talk about some of the other integrations. So again, I talked about this as well. You're going to see some good integration with some of the key vendors out there. And again, this isn't locked just to the cloud. This is also on-prem. So if you use an on-prem provider, you're going to be able to plug into your on-prem scenario. And I'll cover this deeper once I'm able. Again, I asked and they said I'm not allowed to talk about it yet. So give me about another month, I think, and I'll be able to do a webinar just on that. Now, analytics is another interesting topic that got covered. And one of the things that I love about the analytics tool is it's not only about getting data, but it's also taking action. And some of the things you're going to start seeing is they're going to start plugging into third-party integrations. And today with analytics, they already plug into Microsoft Security Graph. They plug into Microsoft AD as well, and you can also unload your data into Splunk if you're a big Splunk shop. So, and then they're bringing in Ping Identity, and I think you're going to see this list continue to grow. And what's great about analytics is it's all about the data. So you're getting a lot of data. If you think about it, you get a lot of data from Citrix. You get things like, hey, when did Pete log on to his virtual desktop, to what apps I launched, to when I launched them, to where I launched it from, where I'm sitting, et cetera. And really the goal here is to take that data and augment it and then take action. So you're going to see a lot of these vendors in this space plug into the analytics and provide data, into the analytics. So Citrix has formed this thing called the Citrix Ready Workspace Initiative, and you're going to start seeing more and more companies start plugging data into the analytics so you can start taking action based on user behavior. Now, really quickly, just a quick shout out to my friends over at Uber Agent. If you're looking for a user experience monitoring tool that plugs nicely into Splunk, these guys are great. We also do it as a service in our managed offering. So again, if you're interested in a great user environment management tool, Uber Agent is a great solution. So let's talk about hybrid cloud and talk about some of the various offerings. But before I do, I think I might have a poll. Double check really quick. Nope. Okay. All right. So let's talk about hybrid cloud. And one of the big announcements was finally Citrix announced full support for Google Cloud. Now, by full support, what I mean is you can go into the Citrix machine creation service. You can go in and plug in your host as a Google Cloud, whether you're on-prem or hosted by the platform. And so, this is great news. And then they also announced support for machine creation services. So you'll now be able to take a template that's in Google Cloud and provision virtual machines like you would if they were, on-prem in your virtual environment. So whether you're using VMware, Zen Server, et cetera, it'd be the same experience, but instead of picking a virtual machine in, let's say, VMware, you'd be picking a virtual machine in Google Cloud and provisioning it from a template. Now, they didn't have this prior to this year. The other thing that's great is they're going to have G Suite integration. So you're going to be able to not only plug in Office 365, but have full integration with G Suite. So if you are Google Shop or Google Chrome Enterprise Shop, you'll see full end-to-end integration with Google. And then finally, they're going to have Citrix, the app delivery controller, available in the Citrix Cloud and the marketplace. I checked today; it wasn't there yet, but you'll be able to go in, run, search for it in the marketplace, provision it, and then plug in a license. And this enables a lot of different scenarios. If you're interested in pooled licensing, let us know. We can explain what that is. But you can essentially run your end-to-end environment in Google Cloud Platform or use the Citrix cloud to manage that as well. So really quick, and then this obviously is going to give you flexibility as well, and you'll be able to plug in these identity providers into that same scenario. And this goes for Azure, AWS as well. So it's not just locked to Google Cloud. So really quickly, I want to show you this. So I actually do have Google Cloud running here, and I'll just show you really quickly. But here's my compute. In my compute, I have just 3 scenarios here. So I have a simple domain controller, one of my cloud connectors, and a virtual app server. Now, I could go deep into how I did this. If you are interested, let me know. I can take you through a demo on how to build a virtual machine, etc. But if I go back here to my Citrix Cloud, and what I've done is I've created a resource location. So, I can now manage. So I have my CLT lab, which the servers, when I power them on, drive Andy nuts. And I got my GCP demo lab, which is what is my Google Cloud Platform lab. And if I click on this, the reason why this is orange is because I only have 1 cloud connector. I should hypothetically have 2. Now, if I click here, you can see that, hey, I got some stats on my cloud connector, and I can see that everything's good to go, right? And so essentially what I've done is I've plugged in my Google Cloud Platform, my Google Cloud, into Citrix Cloud, and Citrix Cloud is holistically managing this virtual app server that's right here. So this just has a simple VDA install. I just plugged in some apps, and I also have a published desktop. So really quickly, I'll take you guys really quick through logging in, and I'll log on here. Well, that's not the right log on. I'm gonna log off because I logged into the default here. Let's log in again to the right one, just to show you. And go to my GCP. There it is. And this is logging into the Google Cloud Platform setup that I have. And again, this is going through the Citrix Cloud, and this is the Citrix Workspace. And if I go to all apps, you can see I have a few apps hosted here. So I could, let's say open up Notepad++, and that's going to launch Notepad from the virtual machine that's sitting up in the Google Cloud through the Citrix Workspace managed by the Citrix Cloud. So pretty powerful if you think about it. And to be honest with you, I set up this demo in probably, I'd say, half a day. So I was able to get this all running, machines built from the ground up and plugged into the Citrix Cloud in less than half a day. So I had access to my end users in less than half a day. So pretty cool if you think about it. And again, I'm managing this instance and Citrix is managing this backend instance for me. So I don't have to worry about a delivery controller, SQL Server, etc. All right, so that's a little overview on the cloud. Again, if there's any questions on that, definitely let me know. I know there's a lot here and I could go deeper and deeper and deeper. But the final thing I want to cover is to talk about kind of choice is the ability to do virtual apps and desktops for VMware Cloud. And what's great about this is this gives you now choice across whether you want to do Azure, VMware Cloud, Google Cloud Platform, et cetera. And this gives you a true hybrid approach to managing desktops and being able to go where the costs make sense. And Citrix Cloud will make that easier with some of the functionalities they're going to come up with in the next quarter or two. And again, because you now have choice, you can pick whatever cloud you want to run in. You can go on-prem. You can do a combination of the two. You can treat your on-prem as primary, a cloud as a DR. So there's a lot of ways you can architect the solution. And by doing this, you're able to now give yourself more flexibility and potentially save some cost on having to run maybe a DR site, or maybe you're going to go holistically end-to-end public cloud, et cetera. So again, there's a lot of different ways we can take this conversation, and I'm going to do a whole segment just on, kind of cloud. And, again, we have our workshop on Azure. We're working on one with AWS. We're also, we also run a small one with Google Cloud as well. So definitely keep an eye out for those.
Hey, Pete, if I could comment on that last slide real quick.
Yep.
I think Citrix knows that the cola wars, like the Pepsi and Coke wars from the 80s, I think they know that's over. And now it's about Citrix and VMware and some of the other upstarts working to add value to become and be open-minded. I mean, I think Microsoft realizes the cola wars are over, and they want to work to add value and work with other partners and not just focus on, winning everything, right? They've come to the realization that we've got to add value. We've got to work with all the other clouds. Our cloud's got to talk to everybody else. It's a big step in our world of end user computing when companies realize that it's not about all winning, it's about winning for the customer.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so if you could take a minute and just answer the poll I put up, what public cloud are you considering? And again, if you're not considering one, just say none. Or if you're doing a private cloud like a TierPoint or an Equinix or an AT&T or a hosted colo site, then just put the fourth option. And I'll give you guys a couple seconds to answer this. Some good anecdotal evidence as well on what you guys are considering moving forward. And then I'm going to put up a secondary poll because I'm interested in the next topic you'd like to see. And I want to be respectful of people's time, but I also want to continue to go through some of this stuff. So if you can stick out for another 20 minutes, feel free. But if you have to jump, I'm going to continue to record and get all this content in. We have a lot of great content and a lot of good Q&A. So it kind of pushed me out a little longer than an hour. But all right, so let's share this poll. It's a lot of good data here. So a lot of you are looking at Azure. A good chunk of you are doing Amazon, AWS. I personally think if you're not looking at Google Cloud, you got to take a look at it. It actually is pretty darn good. I do like it. And then a good chunk of you are still in the none bucket, and it could be for a lot of reasons. So again, I'll let Andy take his screenshot really quick because he wants to share some of this with the executives when he meets with them.
Well, Pete, I've got a comment too. I bet a lot of people were like me. They were struggling because I am XenTegra, right? We've got customers, and personally, XenTegra is looking at we're using Azure. We're talking to Google. We're looking at Google. We're definitely using AWS. We have our own data centers within Equinix, and we still have ideas around does the cloud even fit everywhere or not? So I think that poll is a little difficult because it should have been instead of radio boxes, more like check boxes if possible.
Yeah. That's the thing with these polls. They're hard to customize deep, but it'd be interesting to do a market kind of research study with our customer base and get deeper. And that's something I'd love to do. All right, really quickly, because I want to be respectful of folks' time. And again, about 20 more minutes, but if you got to jump, I get it. Don't worry, I don't take offense. But I want to, before you do, please take a minute to answer this question. What webinar would you like to see next? And the reason why I'm asking this now is because I'd like to get your feedback before you, if you have to jump. I'm going to continue to record, but if you want to stick it out, I got actually one more demo. Actually, I got one demo and then an overview on virtual apps and desktops. So really quickly. So if you can stick it out, great. But again, if you can't, I understand. But please take a minute to answer this quick poll, and this will help me drive my next topic. And we'll give it a couple more seconds. Again, I can't see who's responding. So again, this is more for you guys. So you guys want to see what topic next, and then maybe the topic after that. And then again, I'll probably cover all these topics, but I want to make sure I do them in an order that you guys like. So all right, we'll give a couple more seconds. Going once, twice, and 3 times. And so a lot of you still want to dig deeper into the intelligence. So once we can get deeper and actually have a live demo, I'm going to bring that out. And then you want to see SD-WAN. We just did a great SD-WAN workshop, or I do SD-WAN workshops, but we just did a great webinar as well. And I can send a link out on that, but we'll do another one that's more Office 365 focused. And again, I'm going to cover all these topics at some point in the next quarter. So just keep an eye out, and we'll dig deeper into some of these. And they might not even have to be a webinar Wednesdays. They might be Tech Talk Tuesdays or something. I might have to come up with another marketing term, but hey. All right, so really quickly, again, if you can stick it out, awesome. I got about maybe 10 or 15 minutes worth of content. And again, I am recording this, so if you need to jump, feel free. Let's talk about Citrix SD-WAN really quickly and highlight one of the big things that Citrix launched. And it was kind of a relaunch in my book, because they've already been pushing this, is Office 365 optimization. So if you are using Office 365, you really need to start looking at, how are you treating your users at the WAN offices or your branch offices, sorry. And is the traffic going across the WAN? And we highlight a lot of this in a recent webinar we did. But again, one of the things you need to look at is OneDrive going over the WAN link? Is your Skype calls and your Teams call going over your WAN link? Do they need to go over the WAN link? Can they break out from the local branch? And those are things you need to think about as you start assessing your branch and WAN traffic. And we have a great customer, Northside, who co-presented with us on a webinar recently, but also we did a video at Synergy where we highlight the value of SD-WAN, how much cost savings there were, and some of the things they're going to be doing in the future with it. So SD-WAN is one of those great products that I think it's a diamond in the rough for Citrix, because a lot of people think that, oh, this just magically appeared. No, this product's been around for 10 plus years. Obviously, it's evolved from WAN optimization to what it is today. And then the SD-WAN concept's been around since about 2008. And I was actually on the team when we launched that product. So, again, here's an example. And you can see, if you go and watch this video really quickly, the whole value here is around, hey, I got to give my users a great experience. So when a user is sitting in the branch office, are they going over your WAN link? They're going out the door of your data center and going to a front door of an Office 365 data center. Does that make sense for not only the user, but also does that make sense for your WAN and your WAN link? And can you save money on MPLS? Can you save money on your internet, etc.? So you can see there was about 1.6% packet loss. There was 200 milliseconds in RTT and in latency, and there was about 100 milliseconds of jitter, right? And then the time to download was about 31 minutes. Now, if you break out directly from the branch office through an SD-WAN appliance, you knock that down to 3 minutes, and you can see that the experience is improved. And again, I'll get deeper in a webinar in the future, and I know this is a very simplistic view of SD-WAN, but it shows the power of giving your users a good experience with the applications that they use. And I get, when we talk about this, we talk about what is the front door, what is the WAN, etc. So we can get deeper and deeper into this in an upcoming webinar. All right, so let's talk, and a little shout out here to my friends over at XenTegra. So XenTegra is a great partner of ours, and this is going to lead me into my next poll, which is, are you using Office 365 today? And if you are, if you don't know what Fast Track is, or you're having trouble figuring out your data migration strategy, That's where we use XenTegra. They're a great partner of ours. Think of them as we are to Citrix, they are to us with Office 365, and they help us implement and migrate our customers to Office 365. So think of them as a VAR to the partner. So if you can take a minute to answer the poll, are you using Exchange on-prem, Exchange online, Office you're currently deploying, or hey, it's not on the radar, or you're staying on-prem, or you're using Google Chrome Enterprise even. And I do get a couple folks who actually use Google Chrome Enterprise, believe it or not. So especially in the education space. Yeah, Andy.
Pete, the way I normally ask that question is, are you using Office 365? No, I'm sorry. If you are doing anything with Office 365, considering it, using it, implemented it, fully implemented it, and if it's not going excellent, great, then take an hour, spend some time with us and XenTegra on a call.
Yep.
I've yet to have a customer walk away from that call going, that was a waste of my time. They always learn something, and quite often, to be totally transparent, we end up working with XenTegra and that customer. There's a lot more to know in the Office 365 world than most people know.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree. And XenTegra's, like I said, they're a great partner. They're the top partner as far as Microsoft goes, and around Fast Track in Azure and Office 365. So, all right, so let's share the results. A lot of you are using Exchange Online, which it's funny. I've been doing this poll for almost 2 years now, and it used to be the other way around. It was Exchange on-prem and Exchange Online, but now it's starting to slowly pivot, and depending on the audience too. And then currently deploying is drastically dropped, and then the no is actually drastically dropped too over the last 2 years. So a lot of great data here. And if I go and probably aggregate this with some of the other data I have, it'd be interesting to see the changes over the last 2 years, because I've been running this poll for about 2 years now. All right, so let's dive into the final segment and talk about some of the good old functionalities that you all like, and talk about a little bit of on-prem and the cloud as well. But let's not forget that Citrix is still in the business of serving up apps and desktops, and they're going to continue to improve the protocol. Now, a guy named Dan Feller, if you're not following him or watching his blog, he's a great guy, but also very smart, and has been around the Citrix world for probably 20 plus years, like Andy and I. But every quarter he comes out with a kind of a VDA assessment. And there's another gentleman in Europe, I forget his name, but I can post that up on social media as well. He does a similar thing, and one of the things they look at is the time to CPU usage, log on time, and things like that. And one of the things I hear a lot is, hey, Citrix, fill in the blank, typically when they call the help desk. And now at the end of the day, the goal is Citrix is always going to continue to improve the HDX/ICA protocol. And one of the things I love about 1903 and some of the functionalities that they're doing is you're going to continue to see improvement in this. Now, 1903, as you can see, is drastically improved over its predecessors. Now, at the end of the day, one of the things I always tell my customers, and I actually had a customer come to me and say this, is that, hey, I got users who use Citrix on their home device. Now, obviously, you can't control that. And that's where some of the value is going to come into play as well. And that's some of the stuff that Citrix is looking at to improve. So again, Citrix is not going away from its traditional use case. It's going to continue to expand this use case, but also enhance other potential use cases like SaaS, like secure browsing, et cetera. But you can see they're going to continue to improve the HDX technology and reduce I'll cherry pick a couple here. Reducing bandwidth. I mean, that's huge. That's going to continue to be huge. This is a 25 plus year old technology. It's tried and true, and it's going to continue to get improved. DPI matching, because that's a big issue on Windows 10. Recording, copying and pasting. I mean, again, a lot of improvements across the board, especially if you have third-party machines. So good question popped up. So will 1903 work in 750 and LTSR? The answer is yes, it does. However, you might not gain some of the functionality if there's any back-end improvements. So, yeah, you might gain the functionality of the client. However, you can use 1903 with 750, and I have done it, and I've seen it. I've also seen it the other way around, 715 VDA with the 1903 back-end infrastructure. That's a common question I get, because the cloud, remember, is always going to be up to date to the latest version. Again, the cloud is a platform that you don't have to manage. So you can use the 7.15 VDA with the current cloud platform. And then another question came in from Todd. Any idea why 7.15 would fare worse than the older versions? Again, bear in mind that 7.15 is the LTSR. It's going to be the most stable release to date, and there will be a new LTSR. I'm being told probably Q1 next year, maybe late this year. They don't know yet. They won't solidify on a date. So, but there is a new LTSR coming. Now, that said, remember, LTSR, you're not going to see net new features. So if they put a new feature in, let's say 1903, they're not going to put that feature in the 7.15 version, because obviously that would break stability. But when they do launch 1903, they do typically launch a VDA that aligns to the current release. So if you go on your downloads page and just search for VDA, you'll see 1903 and a 7.15 CCU4 as an example. So take a look at the release notes, Todd. They are making some improvements, but again, they can't put net new features in, because then that would defeat the purpose of an LTSR, right? So again, it's a double-edged sword, and one of the values of the cloud is you don't have to worry about the back-end infrastructure. You can just worry about the VDA and your receiver infrastructure, and that's it. So one of the other features that I love and I think is great, especially if you're going to stay on-prem and you want to leverage the cloud, and this is even going to be available in the cloud as well, is the ability to auto scale or smart power management. So, I know the old school day is, it was just based on schedule and have +1, +5, et cetera. What they're trying to do is to get load-based functionality into this as well. So for example, if you're going to go to Azure and you're going to use desktops up in Azure, instead of having 20 powered on that aren't going to get used, maybe you have 1, then 3, then 5. Or if you're a XenApp server or a virtual app server, you might have 1 powered on, and when it hits a certain threshold, power on another one. When it hits a certain threshold, power on another one. When it hits a certain threshold, power down. So that's one of the things I love. And again, the goal here is to be able to allow you to be truly hybrid. So if you want to run something in Google Cloud one day and maybe Azure the next day, you can, right? And so this gives you the ability to be truly scalable and truly focused on cost savings. Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest hurdles to go into cloud is understanding your costs. And that's probably one of the biggest conversations I have, with my customers. And I typically, the first question I get, as you can probably guess, is, hey, what load or what machine do you recommend in the Azure environment or Google Cloud? And I have to say, oh, it depends. It depends on the data. And Andy and I have these conversations all the time, because it all depends on how the machine's being used. Now, from a XenApp perspective, aka virtual apps, the recommendation is do a smaller size machine and scale out, right? So save money on the front end and scale out as needed. Don't go and try to buy the big behemoth machine, because you might not save money doing the bigger machine. You're going to save more money probably doing the smaller machine, and you might get better throughput on the smaller machine. So there's a lot of different factors that come into play. And if you're interested, you can dig deeper. We can plug in tools like Control Up, Lakeside, et cetera, to give you guys a true assessment of what your environment really looks like. Now, one of the other hurdles that you talk about when you're looking at Citrix Cloud, and I would argue over the last 2 years, I've been doing the workshop now almost 2 years, and I've seen pretty much this thing evolve, the Citrix Cloud. And there's a thing called the Cloud Connector, and that's what connects your data center to the cloud. But this is also the proxy of your VDAs to the cloud. Now, if this thing goes down, what happens? And that's something that Citrix has put a lot of focus on in the near future, and for the last, I would say, almost a year now. And so they've built in a better what's called localhost cache on the Cloud Connector, and you're able to now, in the event of downtime, whether it's the cloud, your ISP, a switch goes awry, whatever the use case may be, you're still going to be able to connect to the VDAs that are being hosted in Data Center X, Cloud Y, et cetera. Now, if they're in Cloud Y and your ISP goes down, you have bigger problems. But at the end of the day, Citrix is very mindful that there might be downtime, and it might not even be their fault, right? And so they have the localhost cache now built into the Cloud Connector. And if Andy and I have this talk all the time about what's the value of keeping Storefront and/or NetScaler on-prem. Are there different scenarios? And you're going to see this, I think, continue to improve over the next year. And then back to Andy's earlier point, and this is the curse of having a great memory is, I remember everything that gets said, and so one of the things that he talked about is on-prem management. And yes, you can manage your on-prem environments with the Citrix Cloud. Now, what's great about this is this gives you the ability to be truly agile and essentially say, hey, I'm not ready to go 100% Citrix Cloud. I'm going to keep my on-prem deployment. Okay, and what this gives you is the ability to be flexible, but also be truly hybrid. All right, and so Citrix is not going to force you to just go to cloud. They're not going to say, hey, we're not doing on-prem anymore. You have the ability to manage this. And really quickly, I'll show it just because the question did come up, and I like to make sure I answer all the questions. But if you are a Citrix Cloud customer, or you're looking at bringing on going to Citrix Cloud, it's simple. You just go into your Citrix Cloud platform, you go into workspace configuration, and under there you can actually pull in your sites, and you can add a site. So I can go in and add a site, and I can add a window, a XenApp, XenDesktop, aka Virtual Apps and Desktop site, and I can also add a XenApp 6.5 site. So this gives you the ability to pull in sites and be able to manage them from the cloud. What this also gives you the ability is migration strategies. So if you're interested in migrations, etc., let me know, and I can point you to a great training partner of ours called Layer 8, and you can get way deeper into kind of XenApp, virtual apps and desktops as a whole, but also the whole migration strategy. I took the training class; it's pretty darn good. So again, that's where you set it up, and then just to make sure I cover the question. If you go under virtual apps and desktops, I kind of talked about this earlier. The great thing about the UI is it's not a forklift for you guys. It's a very familiar interface. And I know what you're thinking, well, why are they going to run a studio up in the cloud? Well, obviously they got to have an MVP, a minimal viable product, and they need to be able to get you guys up and running in their product as soon as possible. So they said, hey, we're going to build a cloud purpose built studio for the cloud for now, and we're going to slowly pivot this eventually to cloud native UIs. Now, what you'll see here in a second is, because it does log off after a period of time, is it's going to bring up my cloud studio, and I'm going to be able to manage not only my cloud environments, but my on-prem environments as well. And so again, the value here is the single pane of glass, the single management, and you're able to now, manage not only your on-prem, but your hybrid type environment. So you can see, here's the studio, very familiar. And you can see like the notion of zones aligns to the notion of a resource location. I have my machine catalog still. And then back here, just to kind of highlight one final question that came up that I saw, is this is where you would add a connection. So if I go here, I won't go through the whole wizard, but I just want to show this. This is where you would plug in your on-prem environments. This is where you would plug in your cloud environments. So as this pops up, again, Citrix has brought on support for Google Cloud, Azure, AWS, et cetera. And I'll pause, Andy. Yep.
Well, so I had two comments. One, I know I've taught at Citrix recently. They're adding some resource power to what you're seeing there.
Yeah.
But Pete, let's address the elephant in the room. What's the have you been given an ETA as to when this goes away from being a published app within a web console to being an actual web app?
I haven't been given an ETA, but I'll be frank, I'd love to see a native web app, because obviously this isn't obviously ideal. And you kind of saw that in the sneak peek of desktop as a service. So I think they have a lot of the foundational pieces. I'm told end of year is what I was told. But again, as an ex-product manager, I always say add a quarter to that, because you never know. So as an ex-PM, I used to be on the product teams at Citrix, and I used to be in the situation when a guy like Andy would ask me, hey, Pete, when's that feature coming out? I'd always have to give them the real answer and then say, oh, but by the way, it could delay. So I think hopefully by end of year is what I'm hearing. So, but again, just to answer, I think a question came up. So here's all the different things you can plug into, and each one takes you down a different path. So if you pick Azure, you gotta have your subscription ID. Google Cloud Platform, you gotta have your key. So there's a different scenario for each one, but you can see they support all the hypervisors across the board. So again, just a quick overview, because someone did ask about the management, the backend management. So, and then finally, one final slide just to kind of highlight. So, if you are gonna, I know a lot of you are still on-prem, all right? And one of the things I want to make very clear is Citrix is not going to sit here and say you got to go into the cloud. And I think you're going to see this become more and more prevalent with some of the features they're coming out with an access gateway. Now, this is one of the slides I could show, but they are going to allow you to keep your NetScaler on-prem, use your identity providers that you have on-prem, and then proxy that to the workspace in the cloud. So what's great about this is you can then get out of the business of having to manage a storefront, and you can still provide a nice, clean experience from a security point of view on-prem, and then proxy it to the nice, clean workspace experience that's hosted by Citrix up in the platform. And that's, to me, would be the biggest hurdle from adoption over the last, I'd say, 2 years. And I'm excited because this gives you the flexibility of saying, no, I'm going to keep my NetScaler on-prem. I'm still going to use RSA, or I'm going to use Duo, and I'm going to still do two-factor authentication and then proxy it and gain the advantage of workspace on-prem. So I'm excited about this feature. And again, the theme here is simple. You can still stay on premise if you want to, but you can use the cloud platform as a management infrastructure if you want to. All right. And down the road, I personally think it's a great path forward to think about, because you gain some of the other key features like secure browsing, like access control. Now, access control you'll be able to do on-prem as well, which is going to be pretty cool once they do launch that. So there's some features they will pull on-prem, but there's features that are going to be cloud only. So you still, my advice is simple: don't totally put the cloud aside. Keep it in the back of your mind. Work with us. We can help you figure out a good strategy moving forward to leverage it.
Hey, Pete, Trevor Mansell, who's our Director of Managed Services and Hosting Technologies, asked a question and says, did bypass of Cloud Connectors feature get addressed?
No, but that is a good one. And that's a new functionality that, Citrix did add in. And that's a good one. So I'm actually adding that into my my Citrix Cloud workshop, because that's one of the other big hurdles to adoption as well, is the ability where everything has to go through the Cloud Connector. So what Trevor means by that is when you make your HDX connection, everything's used to proxy through the Cloud Connector. Now you can bypass it and directly connect to your HDX. And there's some other cool benefits as well, and using what's called the gateway connector as well, and getting connected to the nearest Azure data center.
So Pete, so for context there, you're talking about when you go through the workspace, you had to go through the workspace and down the connector. Yeah. What Trevor's alluding to is the ability to bypass the workspace if you have access to that VDA without going through the workspace, or through a local NetScaler even.
Yeah, and I can send you, Trevor, I can send you a good architectural diagram on that. And again, I'm going to highlight that in my workshop moving forward. I'm actually revamping my whole cloud workshop as we speak to highlight some of the new stuff that's coming out. And then I'm also going to be highlighting that in Azure. So, but I have a great architectural diagram, and it was done by a guy named Dan Feller, who, Dan Feller, if you guys know him, is a great guy. And if you're not following him, definitely follow him. Check out his blog. He does a lot of the diagrams you see were initially drawn by Dan Feller, and he's great at explaining the flows and all that. So, but yeah, that's a good topic maybe for the future as well, is kind of architectural discussions around Citrix Cloud. So
I think your buddy Trevor's calling us out. I think it was on the slide, a new feature slide. I think it was on there.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I forget what slide it was on, but yeah. But no, I mean, obviously we're almost an hour and a half in. I can only cover so much. So, so before I kind of do my end cap, I got a couple of polls here that I just want to do one final poll, and I thank everybody for sticking it out. This is awesome. And this is more for Andy and I actually had a great conversation with a guy named Chris Fleck, who's one of the original Citrix guys at Citrix, still standing today, and he's a great guy, just a great technologist, great friend. But we had a conversation around, would you like to see the workspace experience on-prem? So if you guys could take a minute to answer this question, it actually helps us, because he asked Andy and I, hey, can you help me get data for this? So here's your chance. You have an opportunity to help Andy and I go fight to potentially get a feature put into the on-prem product. So.
And Pete, I got to step away to another meeting, but I do want to make one comment from your previous slide there where it said I get to talk for a minute, and yeah. I'm joking.
No, I was gonna say you can talk while we do this.
Well, Well, I do want to highlight that some of what you guys have experienced on this call is the reality of XenTegra. We don't have one or two guys in a vacuum talking Citrix. We eat, sleep, breathe, discuss, debate, argue, just like Trevor's picking on us here for having something on a slide that we couldn't really talk about. I mean, this is what XenTegra was built to do, which is to have a group of guys that run around and grab Chris Fleck and corner him and ask him questions. And it's not one guy. It's a team effort. And that's just one of the things I want to highlight. And I appreciate you doing this webinar. I personally have picked up a few things that I missed at the conference. So I think this has been great. And I appreciate everybody joining and hanging out even extra time with us.
Yeah, no, and thanks for joining, Andy. I know you're busy. And again, I could spend 3 hours probably going through this, but I had to condense it. So, and, again, thanks for taking the time to join. And Trevor gave me a good webinar topic for the future. So,
well, on that note, I would just ask that people follow up with their Citrix XenTegra and Citrix account manager, and get you for 2 or 3 hours, and run you through the paces and ask these questions. This is this is why you're part of the team.
Yeah, and again, I have a lot of this stuff in a lab, and I'm a technologist at heart, but obviously, I just happen to be good at marketing, as Andy likes to say. So again, Andy, if you got to jump, thanks for taking the time today. And final poll, and thank you for taking the time, but I agree, we need to see the on-prem experience aligned to the workspace experience, because in my opinion, as an ex-product manager, as a user, if I get disrupted, it's very disruptive if I'm on-prem using Storefront, and then all of a sudden my DR scenario changes to this workspace experience. So that's my argument, and hopefully you guys agree. But at the end of the day, just from a user experience point of view, I think Citrix needs to do this. So we'll be sharing this data with the team, and hopefully they'll listen. But again, thank you for taking the time. So final thoughts from Andy. Andy gave us some great thoughts. And again, thank you for taking the time. If folks have to jump, feel free. I'm going to do this final leg here of who is XenTegra, and this takes about 5 minutes, and then again I'll throw up my email. But if you have to jump, it's pete@xentegra.com. You'll also get an email from the GoToMeeting with the video recording. So if you want to share it with colleagues, friends, feel free. So feel free to jump if you need to. So really quick, if you have any questions, now's the time to get them out there. I'll go through each one if I can. And I apologize that this went over, but hey, there's a lot of great Q&A and a lot of great topic here. So really quickly, who is XenTegra if you don't know who we are? Again, we're a reseller, but if you have any questions on today, we can help you demo, POC it. We can help you purchase Citrix. We can even help you manage it. So Trevor Manzo, who's our CIO / Vice President of MSP, can help you manage it end to end. We are a CSP. We're also an Azure reseller, and we can also come in. And let's face it, IT doesn't sleep. Every time you turn around, that project gets pushed out. You can leverage us to come in and help you implement it. So this is Andy. Again, Andy's been filling us in, but he started XenTegra for 2 reasons. 1, he wanted to help enable you guys, and 2, he wanted to have true partnerships with the vendors we work with. And that really sums up XenTegra, and that's why I joined, because I saw the value, and I love doing what I do, but I also love working with customers and clients like you. So again, we are a reseller. We're also a consulting shop. We can come in and implement all the products we talked about today. And we can also be an advisor. You can pick my brain. I'll sit with you for a couple hours and go through and debate. It's fun. I love it. So again, but the value of working with a partner is, hey, single invoice, single vendor, multiple solutions, right? And one takeaway here is I'll say, if you are working with another partner, hey, if they're great, good. If they're not, then give us a try. We'll show you the value we can bring to the table. Because again, our value isn't just selling you a product and walking away. Our value is selling you a product, helping you get it up and running, and making sure that you get the value end to end. So here's a handful of our vendors. You can see a deeper dive into this on our website. I just revamped the partner page yesterday, actually, and going to be revamping this slide a little bit. But you can see our strategic vendors are Citrix and Microsoft, and we do a lot of work with all the other vendors you see here in the slide. Obviously, our goal is simple. We don't bring on a partner if we can't talk about it and or implement it. And I alluded to this earlier. We do have an MSP offering, a managed service offering. We can come in and manage not only your Citrix environment, your Azure environment. We can do backup as a service. And we also do SD-WAN as a service. We're one of a few partners in the country right now that can do SD-WAN and do a managed service offering around Citrix SD-WAN. parallel to that, we can also act as a support arm for you. So I don't know about you, but I don't like calling Citrix support. So why don't you let us do it? We can be your support arm. We can help you maintain your environments, et cetera. So 2 things to think about around our managed service offering. And again, yes, we are a Microsoft Gold partner, and we are a Microsoft Gold solution provider. So we can resell you Office 365. We can also resell you Azure and plug it into the Citrix Cloud, and we can also manage Azure for you as well. Here's a handful of our customer base here, and at the end of the day, you can see we cover a wide variety of verticals. We're not locked to one vertical, and we're not locked to customer size. No customer is too big and no customer is too small. We love all our clients, and I'm sure, hopefully, if you're a client, you would attest that you love us and you love working with us. Again, bookmark this page. Why? Because I'm going to be launching new events in the coming days. Believe it or not, I'm launching a series around Azure and Citrix Cloud. They're going to be online, but they're also going to be at 23 cities. And the cities are going to range up and down the East Coast and some in the Midwest. And I'm going to continue to grow those cities so they could grow to about 30 cities by the end of the year. So keep an eye out for those. Keep an eye out for our NetScaler workshops, our Citrix Cloud workshops, our webinars, etc. But bookmark this page, put /feed at the end of it, and that will give you a nice little RSS feed as well. So again, I want to thank Jonathan and Andy for joining us today. Jonathan, as always, gives great demos. Andy has great insight. Andy and I have known each other for over 10 years now, and we've been in the industry. Between Trevor, Andy, and I, you have about 30 plus years of experience in the industry, probably more, actually. I'd say 60 plus years because we're getting old. But at the end of the day, thank you guys for joining. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm going to pause and check for any final Q&A. So if there's any questions and you want to get your last burning question in, feel free to do so right now. And if you don't have a question, or you something hits you after the fact, give us email and I'll answer it as best as I can. And if I can't find the answer off my top of my head, I'll go find you an answer. So with that, I don't see any final questions. I'm going to thank everybody for joining and taking extra time today. I apologize, it went a little over. So thank you for taking the time. And I am going to say, have a great rest of your Wednesdays and enjoy the rest of your weeks. And thank you for joining Andy and Jonathan.